It was precisely 6 o'clock in the evening when she lit the white candle for the first time. Emily didn't know that this simple gesture would completely change her life. She didn't know she was following a ritual Padre Pio had taught decades ago. And she certainly couldn't imagine that by the end of that week, everything around her would be different. Have you ever felt like your life is spiraling out of control? That no matter how hard you try, something always slips through your fingers? Because that's exactly how Emily felt when she discovered the secret of the 6 o'clock white candle. Today, you'll learn about a spiritual practice Padre Pio personally recommended, a tradition few know about, and one that can transform your entire week into 7 days of divine protection. But first, I need to tell you something about Padre Pio that will forever change your perspective. Francesco Forgione, that was the real name of the man the world would come to know as Padre Pio. Born in 1887 in a small town in southern Italy, an ordinary child from a humble family, nothing indicated he would become one of the most powerful saints in history. But when he was 5 years old, something extraordinary happened. Little Francesco began seeing angels. He talked to them as if they were childhood friends. He saw Jesus and Our Lady walking through the fields around his house. To him, it was normal. He thought all children had these visions. Just imagine, a 5-year-old child playing with invisible angels. When Francesco told his mother about these experiences, she was first frightened. Then she understood. She was facing something divine, something she couldn't explain, but that she felt was true. And it was at that moment that Francesco's mother did something that would change the destiny of millions of people. She began teaching her son to light white candles every afternoon, at 6 o'clock sharp. Do you see the pattern? The 6 o'clock white candle wasn't Padre Pio's invention. It was his mother's teaching, a family tradition he would take to the entire world. But why at 6 o'clock in the evening? Why that specific time? The answer will surprise you. In early Christian tradition, 6 o'clock in the evening marks the end of the liturgical day. It's the moment when natural light begins to fade and spiritual light needs to take its place. It's the hour of transition, from the physical to the spiritual, from the material to the divine. Padre Pio knew this. He understood that at 6 o'clock in the evening, the veil between our world and the spiritual world becomes thinner, more permeable. It's at this moment that our prayers have greater power. It's when our spiritual protection becomes stronger. Francesco grew up maintaining this tradition. Every day, at 6 o'clock in the evening, he lit his white candle. He prayed. He asked for protection for the week that was beginning or ending, and something incredible began to happen. The people around him began to notice changes. His family lived with more peace. Neighbors who followed the same practice reported fewer problems, less illness, fewer conflicts, as if an invisible protection enveloped them. When Francesco became a friar at 16 and adopted the name Padre Pio, he brought this practice to the convent. He taught other friars, and the power of this simple ritual multiplied. But it was at 31 years old that something changed everything forever. In September 1918, Padre Pio was praying before a crucifix. It was a Friday, 6 o'clock in the evening. His white candle burned before the image of Christ. And then the impossible happened. Rays of light came from the wounds of the crucified Christ. They pierced the air and marked Padre Pio's hands and feet with the same wounds as Jesus, the stigmata. For 50 years, until the day of his death, Padre Pio carried the wounds of Christ on his body. Wounds that bled every day, wounds that constantly ached. Wounds that proved his direct connection with the divine. And do you know when these wounds hurt less, when they bled less? Exactly at 6 o'clock in the evening. During his moments of prayer with the white candle, coincidence? Padre Pio said it wasn't. He said that the 6 o'clock white candle created a spiritual shield, a protection that eased even the pain of the stigmata. Now you begin to understand why this practice is so powerful. But there's more, much more. During his years as a priest, Padre Pio received thousands of people, desperate people, sick people, lost people, hopeless people. And to many of them, he gave the same advice. Light a white candle at 6 o'clock in the evening. Consecrate your week. Ask for protection and see what happens. The accounts were impressive. A woman with terminal cancer began the practice. In 3 months, doctors could no longer find traces of the disease. A man about to lose his business followed the ritual. In 2 weeks, he obtained the loan that saved his business. A family torn apart by constant fights adopted the white candle tradition. In a month, harmony returned home. Coincidences? Padre Pio said that true faith knows no coincidences, only miracles disguised as chance. And there was something else, something that Padre Pio only revealed to people very close to him. The 6 o'clock white candle is not just a prayer. It's a commitment, a spiritual pact. When you light this candle at the same time, you are telling the spiritual universe that you are ready to receive protection, that you are willing to trust, that you are open to miracles. But to work, it needs to be constant. It needs to be genuine. It needs to be done with true faith. Padre Pio used to say that the white candle is like a spiritual beacon. When you light it at 6 o'clock in the evening, you are signaling to the angels where you are. You are creating a point of light in the midst of the world's darkness. You are establishing a direct channel with the divine, and this channel works both ways. When you light the candle and pray, your words rise to heaven. When you consecrate your week, you are sending your worries and requests to the spiritual plane. But when the flame of the candle dances, when the white light spreads through the environment, it is the divine answer coming down to you. It's protection arriving. It's peace settling in. It's hope renewing itself. I'll tell you about Teresa, a nurse from New York City. Teresa worked night shifts. She was exhausted. Her marriage was in crisis. Her teenage daughter had completely rebelled. She felt lost, desperate, without the strength to continue. That's when a co-worker told her about Padre Pio and the 6 o'clock white candle. Teresa was skeptical. Catholic, yes, but she didn't believe much in miracles. Even so, she decided to try. What harm could it do? I didn't know what to say. So I simply spoke from the heart. I asked for protection for my family, peace for my marriage, guidance in dealing with my daughter. And I consecrated that entire week to divine protection. Nothing happened on the first day. Nor on the second. Emily almost gave up. But on the third day, something changed. Her husband, who hadn't spoken properly to her for weeks, came home with flowers, no apparent reason. He simply said he felt like showing her some affection. On the fourth day, her teenage daughter, who used to stay locked in her room, came downstairs for family dinner, and for the first time in months, they talked without arguing. On the fifth day, Emily received a promotion offer at the hospital, exactly what she needed to improve her family's financial situation. Coincidence? Emily no longer believed in coincidences. She continued lighting the white candle at 6 in the evening, every week, consecrating the following 7 days, asking for protection, giving thanks for the blessings received, and her life completely transformed. 6 months later, her marriage was renewed. Her daughter had regained her trust. Her career was flourishing, and she had become a different person, more confident, more at peace, more connected with the divine. Emily understood what Padre Pio always taught. The white candle at 6 in the evening is not magic, it's faith in action. It's establishing a sacred routine that connects you with the transformative power of divine love. But there's something important you need to know. Padre Pio was very specific about how to perform this practice. It's not just any candle, it's not just any time, it's not just any prayer. It has to be a white candle. White symbolizes purity, peace, divine protection. Other colors carry different energies. For weekly protection, only white works. It has to be at 6 in the evening. This is the sacred hour, the moment of transition, when the spiritual world is closest to our world. Other times don't have the same power, and it has to be a complete consecration of the week. It's no use asking for protection only for the next day. You need to surrender the entire 7 days to divine protection. You need to trust that each day will be blessed and protected. Padre Pio used to explain this with a simple metaphor. Imagine you are sailors on the high seas. The week is like a long and dangerous voyage. The white candle at 6 in the evening is like lighting the lighthouse of a safe harbor. When you consecrate the entire week, you are charting a protected route from the beginning to the end of the journey. But if you only light the lighthouse when you're scared, when the storm has already arrived, it may be too late. The protection needs to begin earlier. It needs to encompass the entire journey. That's why weekly consecration is so important. When you light the white candle at 6 in the evening and say, "I consecrate this entire week to divine protection," you are establishing a spiritual energy field that will last for 7 full days. You are creating an invisible shield that will accompany you wherever you go. And this shield is real, more real than anything material you can touch. Padre Pio proved this thousands of times during his life. People who followed his guidance with the white candle reported protection in accidents that could have been fatal, inexplicable cures, opportunities that arose out of nowhere, relationships that healed, businesses that prospered. But there was also something more subtle, more profound. The people who maintained this practice began to change from within. They became calmer, more confident, more at peace with life, as if the light of the white candle was gradually illuminating their souls as well. Padre Pio explained that this happens because the practice of the white candle at 6 in the evening creates a daily connection with the sacred. And this connection transforms you from the inside out. When you stop every day at the same time to talk to God, to ask for protection, to give thanks for blessings, you are training your soul to recognize the divine in your life. You are becoming more receptive to miracles, more sensitive to blessings, more aligned with God's plan for you. And the more aligned you are with the divine plan, the more protected you become, because you stop fighting against the current and begin to swim with the blessings that God wants to pour out on your life. Now, let me tell you about the details that make all the difference. Padre Pio didn't teach this practice casually. He was extremely specific about every detail. And there's a reason for that. Each element has a profound spiritual purpose. First, the candle. It can't be just any white candle. Padre Pio recommended beeswax candles whenever possible. Why? Because bees are mentioned in the Bible as symbols of divine work. The wax they produce carries a pure, natural energy, blessed by the very act of creation. But if you can't get a beeswax candle, a regular white candle will do. The important thing is that it's new every week. One candle for each weekly consecration. Never reuse the same candle from one week to the next. Do you know why? Each candle carries the energy of your prayers. When you finish a week, that candle has already fulfilled its purpose. It has already channeled your needs, your fears, your gratitudes. Using the same candle the following week would be like trying to fill a cup that's already full. The new candle represents a new beginning, a new opportunity, A new consecration. And there's another crucial detail that few people know. The candle should always be lit in the same place in your house. Padre Pio called this a domestic altar. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It can be a simple table, a shelf, even a windowsill, but it has to be the same place every time. Why? Because when you consecrate a specific space for this practice, you are creating a sacred point in your home. A place where the divine knows it can find you every day at 6 in the evening. Robert, an engineer from Washington, D.C., told me an amazing story about this. Robert was skeptical about spiritual practices. A man of science, he only believed in what he could prove. But his wife insisted that he try the white candle practice after a series of financial problems that almost drove the family to bankruptcy. Robert gave in, but he did it his way, scientifically, methodically. He chose a table in the living room, always the same table. He bought high-quality white candles. He established a precise ritual, 6 o'clock sharp, every day. At first, he felt ridiculous. He talked to God as if he were giving a technical report. He asked for financial protection with the same objectivity he would use to explain an engineering project. But something curious began to happen. In the second week, Robert noticed that this table had become something special. When he approached it at 6 in the evening, he felt a different kind of peace, as if the energy of the room itself shifted. By the third week, his 8-year-old daughter started joining him spontaneously. Without him asking, she would simply appear in the living room at 6 o'clock and sit quietly beside him during the prayer. In the fourth week, his wife also began to participate. And it was at that moment that Robert understood what Padre Pio always taught. The domestic altar isn't just a physical place. It's a point of spiritual connection, a place where his family connects with the divine, and where the divine connects with his family. Robert's financial problems began to resolve themselves unexpectedly. A project emerged that he never imagined he could achieve, a contract that saved his company, an opportunity that appeared out of nowhere. But more important than that, his family united in a way he had never experienced before. Those daily minutes at 6 o'clock became the most sacred moment of the day, the moment when everyone stopped their activities to connect with something greater. Robert continues this practice to this day, 5 years later, and he says it was the most important decision of his life. Now, let me explain the specific prayer that Padre Pio taught. It's not a long prayer. It's not complicated, but every word holds power. Padre Pio said you should always begin by giving thanks, even if your week has been difficult, even if you're going through problems. Start by thanking God for something, anything. Then, make the consecration. Use your own words, but the essence should be this: I consecrate this entire week to your protection. May each day be blessed. May each hour be guarded. May each moment be touched by your grace. Next, ask for specific protection for your needs. Be honest, be direct. God already knows your problems, your worries, your fears. You don't need to hide anything, and always end with total surrender. Thy will be done. I trust in your plans for my life. Simple as that. But Padre Pio gave an important warning. This prayer is not a list of requests for God. It's not a way to try to control events. It's a surrender, a trust, an openness to allow the divine to work in your life in the way that's best for you. Sometimes the protection God offers isn't what we expect. Sometimes He protects us from things we don't even know are dangerous. Sometimes He allows us to go through difficulties because He knows they will make us stronger. The white candle at 6 o'clock is a practice of trust, not control. And there's something else you need to know. Padre Pio always warned about the obstacles that can appear when you decide to begin this practice, and they do appear. In the first week, you may feel internal resistance. Your mind will try to convince you that it's nonsense, that it doesn't work, that you're wasting time. In the second week, external obstacles may arise. Unexpected commitments at 6 o'clock, situations that prevent you from keeping the schedule. People who will mock your new practice. In the third week, discouragement may come. You may think that nothing is changing, that the protection isn't working, that you're being naive. Padre Pio said that this is normal, and that it's precisely at these times that you need to persevere, because these obstacles are signs that something is working, that spiritual forces are moving, that real changes are happening, even if you can't see them yet. Emily, a teacher from New York City, experienced exactly this. She began the white candle practice full of hope. The first week was peaceful. The second week, problems began. Work meetings that were always scheduled for 6 o'clock, unexpected visits from relatives, problems with her children that would arise precisely at prayer time. Emily almost gave up. She thought she was being tested too much. But she remembered something she had read about Padre Pio. He said that when you decide to seriously connect with God, the world conspires to distract you, not out of malice, but because your previous routine was serving purposes that weren't the best for you. Emily decided to fight for her practice. She began to let everyone know that at 6 o'clock she was unavailable, no matter what happened. She rescheduled appointments. She asked her children to wait. She explained to her relatives that this was her sacred moment. It was difficult at first. People didn't understand. Some even criticized, but after a month, something incredible happened. People started respecting that time. Her children stopped creating problems at 6 o'clock. Work commitments were automatically scheduled for other times. And even more surprising, Emily realized that her entire life became better organized. As if those few daily minutes of connection with the sacred created an invisible structure that organized everything else. Her students became more disciplined, her children more obedient, her husband more affectionate, her work more productive. Emily understood what Padre Pio always taught. When you prioritize the sacred, everything else aligns. When you put God first, He takes care of all other aspects of your life. Now let me tell you about the signs that show the practice is working. Padre Pio said that the protection of the white candle manifests in subtle ways at first. Don't expect grand miracles in the first few weeks. Observe the small signs. You may begin to feel calmer, more confident. Situations that previously stressed you may stop affecting you as much. Problems that seemed huge may start to seem smaller. You may notice that you're making better decisions, that you're automatically avoiding dangerous situations, that you're in the right place at the right time more often. Other people may start to comment that you seem different, more at peace, more centered, more luminous. And then, gradually, the more evident protections begin to appear. The accident that almost happened but didn't. The illness that everyone in the family caught, except you. The opportunity that arose just when you needed it most. The problem that resolved itself without you having to do anything. Padre Pio called these miracles disguised as coincidences. And there's one very important thing he always emphasized. The protection of the white candle doesn't mean you'll never have problems again. It means you'll have the strength to face any problem. It means that no problem will be greater than your ability to overcome it. It means you'll never be alone in your struggles. Emily, a nurse from a small town in Wisconsin, experienced this firsthand. Emily began her white candle practice during one of the most difficult periods of her life. Her 15-year-old son had become involved with drugs. Her marriage was teetering on the brink. She was deeply depressed and on prescription medication. When a friend told her about Padre Pio and the white candle, Emily laughed. She said that if God existed, he wouldn't let her life become such a mess. But her friend insisted. She asked Emily to try it for just 1 week, just to prove it didn't work. Emily accepted the challenge. The first week, nothing changed. The second week, nothing changed either. Emily was already preparing to say, "I told you so," to her friend. But in the third week, her son came home at 6:30 in the evening and saw Emily praying in the living room, the white candle burning on the table. He stopped at the doorway. He watched. And suddenly, he started to cry. It was the first time in months that Emily had seen her son cry, the first time he'd shown any emotion other than anger. They talked that night. They really talked, for the first time in a long time. It wasn't an instant cure. The drug problem didn't disappear overnight. But something had changed. The door to dialogue had opened. Emily continued with the white candle every day at 6 o'clock in the evening, asking for protection for her son, strength for herself, wisdom to handle the situation, and gradually, very gradually, things started to improve. Her son agreed to seek treatment. Her husband began to get more involved in the problem instead of running away. Emily found strength she didn't know she possessed. 6 months later, the family was rebuilding. A year later, her son was clean. 2 years later, Emily testified that the white candle had saved her family. But the most important thing, according to her, wasn't the solution to the problems. It was the transformation that happened within her. Emily discovered a spiritual strength she didn't know she possessed, a connection with God that sustained her during the most difficult times. She learned that the protection of the white candle isn't a shield that prevents problems from reaching you. It's an inner strength that empowers you to face any problem with faith, hope, and love. And that's the true protection that Padre Pio always taught. Now let me tell you about something few people know, the specific days of the week and how the protection of the white candle works on each of them. Padre Pio taught that when you consecrate your entire week at 6 in the evening, each day receives specific protection, a particular energy, a directed blessing. Monday is the day of strength. The protection of this day gives you the energy to start the week well, to face new challenges, to make courageous decisions. Tuesday is the day of wisdom. The protection of this day helps you see situations clearly, to understand people better, to find creative solutions. Wednesday is the day of balance. The protection of this day keeps you centered, helps you balance work and family, responsibilities and leisure, giving and receiving. Thursday is the day of prosperity. The protection of this day attracts opportunities, opens doors, facilitates business, improves your financial situation. Friday is the day of healing. The protection of this day works on your physical, emotional, and spiritual health, brings restoration, renewal, relief. Saturday is the day of harmony. The protection of this day improves your relationships, brings peace to your family, resolves conflicts, strengthens bonds. Sunday is the day of gratitude. The protection of this day helps you recognize all the blessings you received during the week, prepares you for the next consecration. Of course, these protections are intertwined. They are not compartmentalized. But Padre Pio observed over the years that each day of the week tended to bring specific benefits to those who maintained the practice of the white candle. And there's something more, something he only revealed to people very close to him. The white candle at 6 in the evening creates a spiritual bond between you and all the other people who do the same practice at the same time. It's like a collective protection network, a global prayer chain. When you light your candle at 6 in the evening in the United States, someone is lighting their candle at the same time in Italy, where Padre Pio lived. Someone is saying the same prayer in the Philippines, in the United States, in Africa. You are all connected by this sacred practice, strengthening each other, creating a protection that is individual but also collective. Padre Pio called this the communion of living saints, an invisible spiritual community of people who protect each other through synchronized prayer. And there's a very special detail about this. If for some reason you can't light your candle exactly at 6 in the evening, don't despair. The weekly protection remains active. But try to light it as soon as you can that day, even if it's later. Padre Pio said that sincere intention is worth more than perfect punctuality. God understands our human limitations. He values consistency more than precision. But if you can maintain the 6 o'clock time, even better, because you will be connecting with this global network of protection at the moment of greatest spiritual power. Mark, a businessman from Denver, discovered this in a very interesting way. Mark traveled a lot for work. He was always in different time zones. In the beginning, when he started the white candle practice, he was confused about which time to follow. He decided on a simple strategy. Whenever possible, he lit the candle at 6 in the evening of the local time where he was. When it wasn't possible, he lit it at 6 in the evening of his home time, regardless of where he was. Surprising result. Mark began to notice that his trips became smoother. Delayed flights that could harm important meetings were cancelled and rescheduled for better times. Missed connections that should have been a disaster were resolved better than originally planned. On a trip to Europe, Mark missed a flight in Paris that would have made him late for a crucial meeting in London. He was desperate until he discovered that the flight he had missed had mechanical problems and was delayed 4 hours. The next flight which he took arrived on time, and he arrived at the meeting before the clients. Mark understood that the protection of the white candle knows no geographical boundaries. It works wherever you are, as long as you maintain faith and constancy in the practice. Today, 5 years later, Mark continues to light his white candle every day, at home or in hotels around the world. And they say it's the spiritual practice that's changed their lives the most. Now I'm going to tell you the deepest secret Padre Pio taught about the white candle. True protection isn't in the candle itself. It's not in the time. It's not in the words of the prayer. True protection lies in the transformation that happens inside you when you decide to stop every day to connect with the sacred. When you light that candle at 6 in the evening, you're telling the universe that there's something more important than your daily worries. That there's a spiritual dimension to your life, that you believe in something greater than yourself. And this declaration of faith, repeated day after day, week after week, transforms you from the inside out. You become a person who attracts protection because you radiate faith. You become a person who attracts miracles because you recognize the divine. You become a person who attracts blessings because you live in gratitude. The white candle is just the symbol, the vehicle, the tool. But the real miracle is what happens in your soul when you decide to live a consecrated life, a protected life, a life connected to God's infinite love. And this protection, once established, never leaves you. Even when you forget to light the candle, even when you go through moments of doubt, even when life takes you down paths you don't understand, the protection remains. Because it no longer depends on the white candle. It's become a part of who you've become. Padre Pio lived this until the end of his life, even when he was sick, even when he felt pain because of the stigmata, even when he went through moments of spiritual darkness. He never lost the certainty that he was protected. And on the day of his death, September 23rd, 1968, at 2 in the morning, his last words were a prayer of gratitude, not of fear, not of despair, of gratitude, because he knew he was protected for all eternity. And this same protection is available to you now. Today, at 6 in the evening, all you need to do is light a white candle, consecrate your week, and trust that God's love is greater than any problem you may face. It's that simple. And at the same time, it's the most powerful thing you can do for your life. But before you begin, let me tell you about the 3 levels of protection that the white candle can offer. Padre Pio discovered over the years that the practice of the white candle at 6 in the evening works in layers, like concentric circles of protection that expand around your life. The first level is personal protection. It's what happens directly to you, your health, your inner peace, your ability to make the right decisions, your opportunities. This is the most basic level, but also the most immediate. The second level is family protection. When you consecrate your week with sincerity, this protection extends to the people closest to you, your spouse, your children, your parents, your siblings, as if an invisible shield enveloped your entire family. The third level is protection of purpose. This is the deepest. It's when protection acts on your destiny, on your calling, on the mission God has for your life. It's when the right doors open, when you meet the right people, when your life gains a greater meaning. Padre Pio experienced all 3 levels personally, and he taught thousands of people to access them as well. I'll tell you about Emily, a doctor from Austin, Texas, who experienced these 3 layers of protection in an extraordinary way. Emily began the practice of the white candle during the pandemic. She was exhausted, working in a COVID ICU, seeing people die every day, starting to lose faith in medicine and in life itself. An older nurse told her about Padre Pio. Emily laughed. She said that if God existed, he wouldn't let so many people die from a virus. But the nurse insisted. She told her about the white candle. Emily decided to try, more out of desperation than faith. First week, nothing changed. Emily remained exhausted. She continued to see deaths. She continued to question everything. Second week, something subtle began. Emily noticed she was able to sleep better, even after terrible shifts, as if a strange peace were descending upon her during the white candle prayer. Third week, the personal protection became evident. Emily was the only doctor on her team who didn't get COVID, even though she was constantly exposed. Her colleagues started joking that she had a very efficient guardian angel. Fourth week, the family protection appeared. Emily's husband, who worked as a delivery driver and was very exposed to the virus, also didn't get infected. Their 2 young children remained healthy. Emily's entire family went through the pandemic without a single infection. But it was in the 2nd month that Emily experienced the 3rd level, the protection of purpose. One day, during her prayer with the white candle, Emily felt a very strong inspiration. An idea for a treatment protocol that could help seriously ill patients. She had never thought of that before. The idea simply appeared during the prayer. Emily implemented the protocol in her ICU. The results were surprising. The recovery rate of patients improved significantly. Other hospitals began to adopt the same protocol. Emily realized that the white candle hadn't just protected her and her family. It had connected her to a higher purpose. It had given her a tool to save more lives. Today, 3 years later, Emily is recognized as one of the doctors who most contributed to the treatment of COVID in Texas. She knows that it all started with a white candle lit at 6 in the evening. And there's something else you need to know about the levels of protection. They don't necessarily happen in that order. Some people experience the protection of purpose first. Others start with family protection. There's no fixed rule. What is fixed is that if you maintain the practice with constancy and sincerity, you will eventually experience all 3 levels. It may take weeks, it may take months, but it happens. Padre Pio said that God respects each person's time. Some need more time to open their hearts, others to let go of control, others to believe they deserve protection. But everyone, absolutely everyone, who maintains the practice of the white candle receives the 3 levels of protection at the right time. Now let me tell you about something very practical. The signs you should pay attention to in order to recognize when protection is working in your life. First sign, changes in your sleep. Many people report that they start sleeping better after starting the practice of the white candle. More peaceful dreams. Waking up more rested. Less insomnia. This is usually the first sign that something is shifting. The second sign, changes in your intuition. You start making better decisions without knowing exactly why. You avoid dangerous situations without planning. You choose paths that turn out safer. Your intuition becomes sharper. Third sign, changes in the people around you. Negative people begin to naturally drift away from your life. Positive people appear more frequently. Conflicts lessen. Relationships improve. Fourth sign, changes in opportunities. Doors that were closed begin to open. Opportunities appear at the right moment. Resources emerge when you need them most. Coincidences become more frequent. Fifth sign, changes in your perception. You begin to see beauty where before you only saw problems. Gratitude where before there was only complaint. Hope where before there was only fear. These signs can appear in any order. Some may be more evident than others, but if you pay attention, you will recognize them. Julio, a lawyer from New York City, experienced all these signs very clearly. Julio was going through a serious professional crisis. He had lost 3 important clients in 1 month. He was considering changing professions. His self-esteem was at rock bottom. When he started the white candle spiritual practice, Julio was completely skeptical. He did it more to please his wife, who insisted, than because he truly believed. First week, nothing. Second week, Julio noticed he was sleeping better. He thought it was a coincidence. Third week, something interesting happened. Julio was about to accept a case that paid well, but something inside him told him not to. He followed his intuition. A week later, he discovered that the client in question was involved in a money laundering scheme. If he had accepted the case, he would have been in big trouble. Fourth week, changes in people. A college friend he hadn't seen in years contacted him. He offered a partnership in a new firm, a much better proposition than Julio's current situation. Sixth week, opportunities began to appear. 3 new clients sought out Julio in the same week, all referred by people he didn't even know were aware of his work. 8th week, his perception changed completely. Julio realized that the crisis he thought was the end of his career had actually been a cleansing. It had rid him of problematic clients and opened the way for much better opportunities. Julio understood that the protection of the white candle hadn't prevented the crisis. It had transformed the crisis into a blessing in disguise. Today, 2 years later, Julio has the most prosperous office of his career. And he knows that everything changed when he decided to trust in the protection of Padre Pio. Now, I'm going to reveal a secret that few know about the white candle spiritual practice. There is a specific time of year when this practice becomes even more powerful, and that time is approaching. Padre Pio discovered that between September and October, especially near September 23rd, the date of his death, the spiritual connection created by the white candle intensifies. It's as if the veil between the physical and spiritual world becomes even thinner. Why? Because September is the month of Padre Pio's passing into eternity. It's when his spiritual energy is most active, closest, most available to those who seek his intercession. Many people report extraordinary experiences when they begin or intensify the white candle practice during this period. Emily, a nurse from Denver, started the practice on September 23rd. She didn't even know it was the date of Padre Pio's death. It was a coincidence. Or was it? In the first week, Emily had a very vivid dream. She dreamed of a friar she didn't know, but who she felt was very kind. The friar showed her a very intense white light and said, "This light will always protect you." Emily woke up with a peace she had never felt before. She researched Padre Pio online and was shocked. The friar in her dream was identical to the photos of Padre Pio. From there, Emily's life changed rapidly. In 3 weeks, she got a promotion she had been waiting for 2 years. In 2 months, she met the man who is now her husband. In 6 months, her whole life was transformed. Emily continues to light her white candle every day, and every September 23rd, she lights a special candle, a larger one, to thank for all the protection received. And there's a very beautiful tradition you can adopt as well. On September 23rd, in addition to your regular white candle at 6 in the evening, light a second candle. It can be at 9 o'clock at night, which was the time Padre Pio used to say his last prayer of the day. With this second candle, say a special prayer of thanksgiving for all the protection received during the year, for all the miracles, big and small, for all the transformation that has happened in your life. And take the opportunity to renew your commitment to the practice for the following year. Many people do this and report that it is one of the most emotional moments of the year, as if Padre Pio were there, present, personally blessing each of them. Now, let me tell you about a very special aspect of the white candle's protection that few know. The protection is not limited to the time you maintain the practice. Once established, it creates deep spiritual roots in your life. And these roots remain even if you need to interrupt the practice for some reason. Jessica, a businesswoman from Austin, discovered this in a very touching way. Jessica maintained the white candle practice for 3 consecutive years. Every day at 6 in the evening without fail. Her life had been completely transformed. Business thriving, family united, health in good order. But then a very difficult phase came. Jessica's mother became ill and needed intensive care. Jessica had to travel to another city, stay at the hospital, care for her mother 24 hours a day. For 2 months, Jessica couldn't maintain her white candle routine. She was always at the hospital, always running, always worried. She began to feel guilty. She thought she had abandoned Padre Pio, that she had lost her protection, that she was alone in that difficult moment. But then, something incredible happened. On the day her mother was discharged from the hospital, completely cured, a nurse approached Jessica. She was a woman of about 60, very kind. The nurse said, "My dear, I don't know what your religion is, but I felt I should tell you something. During these 2 months that your mother was here, I always saw a very clear light around her. And around you too, a light of protection. You too were being very spiritually cared for." Jessica was overwhelmed with emotion. She realized that even without lighting the white candle every day, the protection had remained active. Padre Pio had watched over her and her mother throughout that entire ordeal. When she returned home, Fernanda resumed her spiritual practice with even more gratitude. She understood a profound truth. True spiritual protection doesn't depend on our perfection. It depends on God's love and mercy, and that love never fails, even when we think we've failed. Now, to conclude, I want to share with you the specific prayer that Padre Pio offered during his final years, the prayer he whispered every day at 6 o'clock in the evening when he lit his white candle. It's a simple prayer, but imbued with spiritual power. If you wish, you can use it too. Loving Father, I light this candle in honor of your infinite love. May this flame be a sign of my faith. May this light be a reflection of your protection. I consecrate to you all the days of this week. May each dawn be blessed by your grace. May each dusk be guarded by your mercy. Protect me from all evil. Protect my family from all danger. Guide my steps along the paths of your will. And may I always be an instrument of your peace. Amen. This prayer contains everything you need: faith, consecration, a plea for protection, surrender to God's will, and a commitment to being an instrument of peace. If you memorize it and say it every day, you will feel the power of the words that Padre Pio himself spoke thousands of times. But if you prefer to use your own words, that's fine too. The important thing isn't the exact words, it's the sincerity of the heart. It's true faith. It's the trust that God hears and answers all prayers offered with love. And now, we come to the end of this journey. You've learned about the extraordinary story of Padre Pio. You understand the power of the white candle at 6 o'clock in the evening. You've heard testimonies from real people whose lives have been transformed by this practice. You've discovered that spiritual protection isn't fantasy. It's reality. It's strength. It's transformation. It's divine love in action in your life. From today onwards, at 6 o'clock in the evening, you have a scheduled appointment with the sacred. A daily opportunity to connect with something greater than yourself. A chance to transform your life through faith. The white candle is waiting for you. Padre Pio is interceding for you. God is ready to pour his blessings upon your life. All you need to do is light that candle, say that prayer, and trust that God's love is greater than any problem you may face. It's simple, it's powerful, it's real, and it will change your life forever. May the light of Padre Pio illuminate your paths. May the protection of the white candle envelop your family, and may the peace of Christ always reign in your heart. At 6 o'clock this evening, light your first white candle and begin the most important journey of your life, the journey of faith that protects, of hope that transforms, of love that never fails. Padre Pio is waiting for you.